very close to an energetic base, which carries an astonishing energy of love and truth, which will no longer be denied on this planet.
Welcome back to True Reality TV. This is Inside Love as One, episode 9. And now we're getting into when Mom returns from Philly. So this was really the first beginning of her mission, but she had no idea at this point what the 14-year mission that was about to unfold, what was going to be. She's still putting the pieces together. At this point, around 2006 is when Mom is first told that she is Gaia. So this was the first piece of information that kind of comes through to ultimately get her, which was a 14-year journey, to ultimately get her to the understanding that she was carrying the mother of all creation essence. The awakening is not an overnight process. And as our higher selves integrate with us, which is part of all of our journeys, it goes in pieces. It's not like you wake up one day and you're like, I'm this. It doesn't happen that way. It happens through a series of events that is part of the divine plan for each of us. But this story is about Mom's piece of the divine plan, to remember who she was, to bring in that full essence so that we could all do the same. And so in 2006 is when she first gets the first nugget that she's Gaia. And this takes years, by the way. This takes years to get from Gaia, Mother Earth, to Mother God, to Mother of all creation, to Prime Source Creator. There was many steps along this way, and many confirms and synchronistic events and things that had to happen in order to get Mom officially onto the awareness of what her mission was here. So this is the story of Mom first getting that nugget of, you are Mother Gaia.
The story of Adam and Eve, the beginning of creation, is what they were showing me. So they began in a singular of events, which took many years for me and the angels, the galactics, had to come in. Cryon, Crayola, Robin, everyone, Jermaine. Don't leave Jermaine out. He's like, what? Had to tell me, had to share with me the truth. And, what a journey for them, for me, over a series of years. Cryon was the first. He was like, your Mother Gaia. What? Who is Gaia? Gaia. I had to call a friend, somewhat spiritual. Who's Gaia? Mother Earth. Like, who the fuck is Mother Earth? And then they're like, Gaia. I'm like, oh my God, it's me. Shit. Years of this experience. And, another one was SpongeBob of like, I had it written down. They told me, something about hot, I don't know, like, or Slim Shady, the real Slim Shady, will you please stand up? All of a sudden, they click my computer on, play the song. I'm like, holy fucking, will the real Slim Shady please stand up? Please stand up. Boom!
So that was the, as she's getting all these syncs, right? And she gets told by Kryon, your mother Gaia. Okay. She's like, okay, Gaia, Mother Earth. Like, so at this point, and this carries her into the year 2007, which would turn out to be such a pivotal year for Mom. Like I said, she was still on this track where she was going to become an owner-operator of a Sonic. I think after she was pulled to that mission in Philadelphia, which was for about 6 months or so, she was still kind of under the impression, I think at this time, that she was just going to continue on with what she was doing. She was about to become an owner of a store. Like, she was getting these downloads, but it was not like Mom woke up one day and was like, I'm Mother God and I'm gonna start a cult. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the way that it was. This was just an experience that was bigger than Mom, right? It was bigger than what she was aware of. And these pieces coming together is what ultimately kicked off the ascension of the planet, right? And so she starts joining all of these light worker groups. That's when she got really active with light worker groups. She's talking to other people who are on, that awakening journey. She's finding a lot of channelers as well, because that's when the light worker community really kind of was growing and was kind of getting its popularity. So she was listening to channelers. She was doing research as she always did. This is also about the time where she discovers Wayne Dyer. And Wayne Dyer was basically the one who coined the ego as edging God out. And when Mom read that, she was like, that's it. That's the truth. So Wayne Dyer gave that nugget. So she's starting to understand a little bit about the ego. She's in a lot of light worker groups. Again, she's connecting to the Father God at this point because that's who everybody knows. So yes, Kryon's telling her, your Mother Gaia, your Mother Earth, but at this point, that doesn't click anything for Mom. She's at this point getting into kind of connecting and you could say channeling, but talking to Father God and getting all these downloads. So she's starting to get the downloads about the ascension, about the mass awakening of humanity, about her role within the process, right? So during 2007, she also participates in these mass meditations. She's getting involved with mass meditations, light worker groups. She's also doing sessions with people at this point on and off throughout her emails. She's talking to a lot of people. She has other people who are also assisting with research. Research on the prophecies, research on the Bible and kind of the allegories of that, right? So in July of 2007, on the 7-7 portal, they did a mass meditation, which was called Fire the Grid. And this was one of the biggest mass meditations at the time. And it was to light up the higher grid. And so Mom is getting her, again, more understanding of how powerful the energy is and what's going on the planet and the awakening and her role within that. So I just wanted to read a little excerpt from one of her emails, and this was from October of 2007. So she says, and when she says he in the email, she's referring to the Father God. So she says, he told me yesterday that I am the New Jerusalem, that this is a new love story between Gaia and heaven. And she then says, he told me that I can change the world with my 2 hands and I am ready. And she says, it is now October 29th, 2007. I have been knighted under the authority of God, and I am carrying the grand task of representing this energy on earth, the same as Jesus. No wonder my guides told me that he had blonde hair. It's me. I am assuming my role in the divine drama. This would make sense. I first would have to see myself as God and then assume a divine role in the divine drama. I had a ceremony and everything I received. So she's documenting an experience that she had, which was a full-on kind of vision where she was initiated into heaven as God. Okay, so she has that experience, and she's documenting that. And she starts to, again, kind of see, oh, this is why they were telling me I'm Jesus. And so she's understanding the realization now that she had to see herself as God in order to begin her role, right? And she's also coming to the awareness about the ego and realizing she doesn't have it. Now, nevertheless, mom was always like, you take accountability. Like throughout mom's journey, she was always taking accountability for any dysfunction she saw around her. And this would become her main contract, to basically take accountability and to transform any energies that came into her field, collective. But she's seeing that this is why I was in heaven consciousness. I didn't have the ego. She's starting to get that piece. Now, she also says that she received in this vision, in her initiation into heaven, she received a crown and a purple violet robe. She said, wow, this is amazing. I have it all documented. And then she says, Cartman on South Park on the same day in the episode that she must have watched, she says he also received a crown and a purple robe. LOL. Great validation. Thanks, team. And she also says, the new name Leah Emil has been given to me. So she starts going by Leah Emil around this time, and you'll see a few years later into when she goes to Crestone, she would go by Leah, love in action. And the Emil part was like Queen of the People or something like that. So she says, the meaning of Leah Emil is bringer of the truth to the people. She says, they do things in a funny way, I tell you. At the next portal, I received the Holy Grail. Oh my gosh, this is a documentation of events. Signed, Leah Emil. So towards the end of 2007, this is when she connects with Amarith, who you've seen in the doc. And he is declaring himself as Father God. So now remember this. Mom surrenders to her guidance, okay? So obviously she's been connecting with Father God. This is fairly new for her. She's getting all of this information. And then she synchronistically connects with Amarith, who is kind of declaring that he is Father God. So mom always followed the synchronistic events. She wasn't here to figure things out. She wasn't here to figure it all out. She was here to follow the guidance and follow the yellow brick road, if you will. So for her, when she connects with Amarith, she's like, yes, I've been talking to Father God. Here is this being who's declaring himself Father God. And so this is when mom starts getting the twin flame energy. Right? And I know that there's a lot of discourse about twin flames. And so just quickly on that is like, yes, twin flame energy is real and true. However, it has become so distorted on this planet that later in the journey, which we will get to, is when mom kind of starts pulling back from talking about twin flames and kind of putting that out there because the ego hijacked it into this completely dysfunctional masculine feminine relationship that it was never intended to be. However, at this point, she is getting the twin flame energy, okay? So this is what kind of gives her the confirm and synchronicity that Amouranth is going to be a key person on her journey, okay? So she starts connecting with him. Now, so one day he emails Mom, okay? And he says to her that he feels they are twin flames, okay? So Mom immediately felt this truth, and she never questioned her guidance ever. No matter what, Mom was always in the present moment in total surrender and acceptance of her path. This is why she's the conduit for anchoring Source, because she had no resistance, no doubt, no questioning. So after months of kind of developing this bond with Amouranth, she's getting the guidance and the confirms that this is her twin flame, right? Truth is what is highest in the moment. And at that moment, he was carrying Father God energy, right? So she is following the yellow brick road with that. She is going to commit to whatever the next portion of her path is going to be. But she understands at this point that the Father God energy is important for her journey, okay? She doesn't yet know anything about her being Mother God, okay? So at this point, this is later in 2007, probably November. And Amouranth basically asks Mom to join him in Crestone, Colorado, and to pretty much like begin this mission. So Mom is spinning, okay, as she would often say, because she understood that if she was going to do this, she would have to leave Aiden, she would have to leave Rick, she would have to give up this store she was about to open. Like basically she's taking a leap out of the life that she's known thus far, and there's a good possibility that she's never going back to it. So Mom is spinning, she's in tears, she's distraught. The angels keep pulling her into etheric meetings at this point, telling her, this is what you're here to do. This is why you're here on the planet. This is what you were always here to do. She's refusing to go. Okay, so she's telling the angels, I'm not going. I can't do it. And at this point, they pull her into a meeting. And I don't remember the date of this meeting, but I vividly remember this story. She's in a shower meditation, which is something Mom would do often. She would sit in the shower in prayer and meditation. And they pull her into this meeting. And the angels basically show her all of creation. So they show her the 8 billion people on the earth. And they say to her, you can either stay where you are and you can, be a mom to your 3 children, earth children, or you can save 8 billion children. And I think the immensity and the profoundness of what Mom experienced in that meditation and that vision and what was shown to her is when she decided, okay, I'm gonna do this. And so it was in December of 2007 when Mom decides she's gonna go to Crestone, Colorado, and she's gonna start this mission. And of course, things unfold between her and Rick. Obviously, there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of not understanding what's going on, which, led to a lot of just unfortunate events that, Rick kind of flipped out, and Mom then just had to decide, like, okay, I've just got to follow through with this. So on December 17th, 2007, Mom gets on a plane and she heads to Crestone, Colorado. She always tells this story. She was wearing a white suit and she was carrying a red suitcase, and she was honestly like full of excitement. Like, Mom in that era was so filled with like excitement and wonder and joy of all of this. Like, on one hand, she was so distraught of having to do this, of like having to leave her family, like this series of events of her life. Like, there was so much pain within it all, but mom was so wildly like optimistic and like always in this state of like joy. And she said that when she got there, she really did believe, like when she got there, she was like, this is going to be great. Like, we're going to help wake everybody up, let everybody know their God. And, you know, all they have to do is just let the ego go, like be love, you know, be the God self. She was like under the impression that this was going to be great and wonderful. This was all going to unfold seamlessly. Everybody was going to wake up together. We were all just going to kind of kumbaya it into the new world, because that's what mom saw. That's what she believed. That's what she felt. And mom would not realize until later that what she essentially was doing by beginning her mission was going down into hell consciousness, in order to transform it all and bring it back to light. She did not know that yet. So going to Crestone was kind of like going into hell, if you've ever been there. She would say that Crestone is the ascension point, because it holds both the highest vibration and the lowest vibration on the planet. There is both heaven and hell in Crestone, depending on who you're talking to and which way you're looking at it. But both of those energies are very prevalent there. And so she gets there, it's freezing cold. If y'all have never been to the valley in Cresta, or to the valley, the San Luis Valley in Colorado, it is freezing. So mom is all of a sudden plunged into this experience where she gets off the plane. It's freezing cold, probably sub-zero. And when she arrived in Crestone, she's full of excitement, but she does not know what is about to go down. So they lived, it was her, Amrith, and another guy, Will, and they lived in the forests of Crestone. Again, this is not a strange thing. If you're from Crestone, then you know there's a lot of people who live in the mountains, who live in caves, who live in tents. And the kind of joke about Crestone is like, if you can make it through one winter there, then you pretty much can stick it out, because it's very harsh conditions. And so they actually lived in a trailer in the forest for 3 years. No heat, no running water, nada. Okay? So they live in this trailer. There's no heat. There's no water. There's no electricity. They're building fires. Mom is chopping wood, building fires every day. She's bathing in the river. They have very little funds. So this was basically the epitome of pain and suffering. The absolute epitome of pain and suffering. So, the question people ask, like, why would mom choose to do this? Because that was part of her contract, to take on the pain and suffering. She wasn't getting anything out of this. There was no benefit to her from this. This was for humanity. Okay? So they're living there for a few years, but we're just going to focus on, the first year, 2008. So mom told us that Crestone has the highest and lowest states of consciousness, right? There's many spiritual centers there. There's also a lot of density there. There's a lot of darkness there. There's a lot of rumors that the Cabal has stations there. There is a very strange military activity in those mountains as well. So for 3 years, from beginning of 2008 and to 2011, Mom lived in the forest. They had very little money or resources. She would eat the food that was offered to her or the angels supplied for her, often going to the local food bank. This is when Mom began to see what she would be facing here in Crestone. Okay. So as she said, the highest and lowest energies resided here. So naturally, the lower energies despised her. So this is when Mom gets the next big taste of the ego and a very harsh understanding of the ego. And so she tells a story. There's many stories during this time, but she tells a story where they had no food and she was walking down to town to receive some food from the local food bank. She did not have a car, so she hitched a ride into town. It's about a 4-mile walk from the forest into the town of Crestone. So she hitched a ride. There was only 15 minutes before the food bank closed, but someone drove by and had offered to give her a ride there, of course. So she jumped in. They arrived 5 minutes before closing. And there was a woman who was working the food bank, and she denies Mom and says, "Oh, we're closed." And Mom's like, "Well, there's still 5 minutes, we don't have any food. I tried to get here on time, and she could not, and this woman literally closed the door in her face and was like, "No." And Mom could not comprehend at this point the lack of compassion of humanity. She could not comprehend. Like I said, she had seen the ego in terms of the way people had treated her, the way people would freak out around her, but this was still like a new thing for her. Like, she's just like, I don't understand it. And that was pretty heartbreaking for her. And Mom did whatever she had to do to serve mission. She would walk every single day, 4 miles down the mountain and then 4 miles back up the mountain in order to go into town and post her channeling messages to humanity. Mom, Amrith, and Will had created their website, the Galactic Free Press. Mom was running the site along with them, with other writers and light workers, basically to bring the truth to humanity. So every day, Mom's doing this. She's walking and by the way, it's not a luxurious, effortless walk. Okay, the campgrounds in Crestones are high up in the mountain, so you got to walk all the way down the mountain, about 4 miles, and then to get back up, you got to hike 4 miles up the mountain. So she was doing this daily to go into town to post the messages. Right? Messages, downloads that she had been getting. Amrith had a lot of codes for her as well. We'll get more into that. And so her dedication was like unmatched. She was like, this is what I'm here to do. And she was going to be in service no matter what. There was no obstacle that Mom wasn't willing to overcome because she fully believed, this is what I'm here to do. And so around this time, this is when she again starts experiencing more of getting kicked out of places, which is a theme throughout Mom's life. I talked about her earlier years when she would laugh too loudly and get kicked out of places. People just rejected her. It was just her energy. And there's a local cafe, shout out to the Cloud, in Crestone, where Mom would go to post her messages and, to use the Wi-Fi at that point. Or I don't know if they had Wi-Fi then, but whatever they had, I can't remember, in 2007. So the Cloud kicked her out. They didn't want her using the Wi-Fi anymore, basically without buying something. And also, for reference, the Cloud is very expensive. Like, you're talking getting a burrito for like $14. It's absolutely insane. Like they think they're LA. Side note. And so Mom was kind of astounded, and she was like, is this how humanity like treats each other? Like, is this how things are? And she just couldn't understand it. And so this is where like some interesting things start happening, because on one hand, mom is seeing the ego full force. She's very deeply entrenched in the experience of pain and suffering in Crestone. And also around this time is when she starts downloading the Mother God energy. So in the beginning of 2008 is when, you know, she's channeling, right? Remember, she's still doing her channeling, her talking to Father God. And that was one of her disciplines every day, is she would, you know, connect with Father God. She would ask questions. She would write down answers, right? And one day, Amrith says to her, well, why don't you try channeling Mother God? And mom was like, I never thought about that. So she starts channeling Mother God for probably a few days, maybe even a few weeks. And then one day she sits down, like as she would always do, and she says, okay, Mother God, I'm ready for today's channeling. And she writes down, you are Mother God. Now this is another moment of like, what? And this was the piece of the puzzle that she needed, right? And so again, she will always credit Amrith for being someone who was an important part of her journey and had a lot of codes to deliver. Because remember, as we go through this story of her life, the Father God energy will always be important, because she was here to not only anchor in the Mother of all creation essence fully, she was also here to find the vessels who were carrying Father God energy, Father of all creation energy, so she could anchor that essence completely as well into a vessel. She did not yet know that Lucifer was the lower aspect of Father God. She did not know that yet. So she's right now recognizing that Amrith is holding a piece of the Father God essence, right? Which is helping her to put these pieces together. However, she would later come to realize that this is why the vessels that do carry Father energy, pieces of that essence, also carry Lucifer energy. And that this is why no one vessel was ever able to fully hold that Father energy, because they had to transform the Lucifer energies with it. And that would prove later to be too much for any one vessel to do, which is why there had to be many, many vessels who each took on a piece of that contract. And Lucifer energy just simply means darkness, unconsciousness, unawareness, ego. It's not really scary. It's just unconscious, unaware. And so she starts getting the Mother God downloads. Now she's still going by Leah Emile. This is again an important part of kind of her mission there in Crestone that first time, which was from 2008 to 2011. But of course, right now at this point, right, like she's been on mission for a few months. You know, her family's wondering what the hell she's doing. She is even asking herself, like, what am I doing here in this pain and suffering experience when, like, I miss my family and I miss my children, and what am I, like, doing here? And of course, the galactics and the angels had to keep just coming in, being like, this is what you're here to do. Like, we wish this was different. We wish you were having a different experience, but this is what it is. And I'd like to read an email that she sent to her mother in February of 2008, attempting to explain what she was doing and what her mission was. So this email was sent on February 19th, 2008. She said, "Mom, I understand this message will be challenging for you to read. However, I'm going to attempt it anyway. I have incarnated this lifetime to bring everyone home back into the light. This is why you've always said I was up in the clouds, because it is through consciousness in which we can achieve this. You always knew I would be somewhat of a psychologist. The earth is changing right now, and we are manifesting heaven on earth, or heaven Christ consciousness, to bring earth back into the paradise or Eden that it once was. Every 6.5 billion of us came into earth at this time for the change. Most of us just forgot, except for a select few, I and others who have awakened. That is why this lifetime of mine appeared to you to be so crazy, because I had to awaken to assist through this transition. This is what all the references to the end of the age, or 2012, the end of the world, it is really the end of the world for egos, for ignorance, because one has to release the ego to be the true being. The true being is the heart. We have identified what has kept humanity from moving forward into the true light beings we all are. It is called the ego, which society placed on others for manipulation, control, and abuse. These past years, I have been in deep study on the human psyche and have well prepared myself for the upliftment of humanity back into full consciousness. The meek will inherit the earth, and in essence, we are all one big family, and I am a part of what they call the first wave. It's a little Star Trek, but more grander. I have been initiated into the real heaven, and all who are choosing this. A team of us will be assisting everyone by bringing truthful information through. Information that brings the end to destruction, pain, suffering, and death, and ends all negativity. Even if you cannot understand or see this now, hopefully you will one day, and be so proud of me. Planet Earth will return back into peace, harmony, joy, and oneness. Yes, kind of like when Jesus was here and had the message of unconditional love and was killed for telling the truth. I would be considered Jesus as well, except this time ignorance cannot win. True love is going to take over the planet. It is time for the age of Aquarius. I am the miracle that everyone has been waiting for. An example of pure light, love, and truth. I am a messenger, and although society loves to kill the messenger, not this time. Everyone is a miracle. They have just been asleep in a dream of separation. I am here to reheart everyone of who they truly are. You do not have to worry about my children, as they will all be back with me soon, and that is a guarantee. I and others cannot save anyone, and it is not the point. We can only give the honest truth and information in which we are sharing freely, because true love is free and unconditional. Remember when I cried at the movie Conversations with God, and when the show Heroes came out? Something was happening to me, and I knew I had a mission and a contract to fulfill for the changing times. This has not been an easy or comfortable experience. It took a lot of work to get here. The only way out is through. The ego has put everyone in a box, and when one steps out of the box, the true being comes alive. Okay, this was a lot of information, and as I have said, I love you deeply. I love humanity deeply, and I choose to awaken. I love everyone, and we are all God. And so, Mom was open about this. That email was sent in 2008. Mom was saying, this is who I am, and this is what I'm here to do. And here is another story of Mom kind of sharing this first information as it came through of the fact that she was Mother God.
It was fascinating. The angels kept telling me I was God. I was like, everyone is God. I know this. Everybody's God. And they were just like, they would stare at me. I'm like, why are they staring at me? They were like, well, you're like the main god? I'm like, who the fuck is the main god? Huh. Main god. There's a main god? We're all the main god. They're like, no, well, you're the main. What does that mean? And I did all these ceremonies, marrying the creator, not even understanding until years later, I was marrying myself into balanced harmonics. Ain't that some shit? I was like, huh, how did I do that? Everything had flipped into the Father. And I totally bought into the whole thing until they downloaded me with Mother of All Creation Energies. I was like, wait a minute. Huh. No. That's not reality. Truth. I am the creator. What the fuck did Father have to do? He's just a fucking sidekick in the motorcycle ride on the motorcycle. I'm the creator. I'm the engine. I'm the dream. I'm God, giver of dreams. That's me. Father is my support system. You guys are my support system because you are my...
So, just so funny. The motorcycle ride. And yeah, this was, when Mom again starts to figure out more of who she is. And everything Mom did, she gave it 150%. Like, they're living in the forest. They don't have a lot. They don't have shit. She's having all these experiences of like hypothermia, not having food. Like I said, trekking 4 miles down and 4 miles back up every day to post messages, to post on the website. Her level of dedication and fortitude is unmatched. And that is why she is who she says she is. And, she also experienced a lot of abuse for the 6 years that she spent with Amrith and Will. We'll get to the rest of that story later. Again, I will say she always credits him, that he was a guide for her, that he did give her so many pieces of the puzzle, to which she is very grateful. But there was also a dark side to that. There was a dark side to his consciousness. And I think Mom didn't really know how to handle a lot of this at the beginning, because she was just so kind of, I guess in a way, she was not used to the experience with masculine, but she understood the trauma with masculine. But it wouldn't be till later that she would really come to process all of it. But here in the forest during these 3 years, she is doing beautiful things. She had set up the most amazing campsite, like with her bare hands, stacking rocks, creating a little kitchen. We actually went to visit the campsite that she built when we were later in Crestone, and it was still there. She had built like a little kitchen. She had built a fire pit. She did it all herself. And they were working to like set up a light center in Crestone. She ended up launching that light center at one point, a crystal school blueprint that she was setting up. So there was a lot that she accomplished in that first round of Crestone, but we're going to get to all of that. But her first experiences of kind of understanding the ego here is where she first experiences the darkness of Crestone, the way people treated her, the way people treated each other. And so after she starts downloading this Mother God essence, she said this essence would take her 7 years to fully embody. The angels then told Mom that she would need to announce herself as Mother God. And she was like, no. I know if I do that, they're coming for me. I'm not doing it. So she refused, and ultimately she knew that The ego was going to freak out if she did that. And the angels kept pushing her. You must declare yourself as Mother God. You must put it out there. And this was really overwhelming for Mom. So eventually she did surrender and declared herself Mother God on the Galactic Free Press. And her and Amrith basically began anchoring in the Mother and Father God blueprints at this time, the twin flame Mother, Father, God essences together. And this was a big revelation. This was the first time that this was kind of put out there on the internet. And Mom said that for those first couple of years after she came out as Mother God, she said she used to get thousands of emails of people just attacking her, judging her, telling her she's not that, she's not this. And it was hard for her because she didn't want to do it. They told her that she had to. So she surrendered and said, okay, all right, I'll do that. And they started attacking as she knew that they would. And a lot happened in 2008. Another confirm that came during this time was she met a being named Apple. He's a local guy in the Valley area. And he's also a healer. And one day they were chatting and she actually went to visit him at his home. And he hands her the book, The Celestine Prophecy. And he told her, open it up to any page that you want. So she just opens the book. It happens to open to chapter 7, which was White Buffalo Calf Woman. And Apple's like, oh my God, I knew it was you. And Mom's like, what? And Apple explained that just before Mom arrived to his house, someone showed up at his door and told him that a white calf had been born and that White Buffalo Calf Woman was returning. These are the types of crazy things that you cannot make up. You just can't make these things up. These were experiences that Mom had where she was like, what is going on? And he was someone who provided this ridiculous confirm for her. Mom was stunned that these confirmations were becoming so strong, and that she could no longer ignore them. And at this point, during 2008, the BP oil spill happens. Now, remember, Mom had already first gotten the download that she was Mother Gaia. She was Mother Earth. She was just receiving the information about Mother God, but she was, in a way, still very much integrating the reality of what does it mean to be Gaia? What does it mean to be Mother Earth? And again, this would become a part of Mom's story in which her physical vessel would often reflect what Mother Earth was experiencing. The damage, the trauma, the pillaging, right? The raping. Her body would often reflect things that were happening to Mother Earth, especially on big events. So when the BP oil spill happened, Mom was downloading that Mother of all creation essence still, and she broke her ankle the same day. She was basically in excruciating pain. This went on for weeks. Mom basically just had her ankle wrapped. She was still doing the 4-mile walks back and forth until finally one day she called Apple. And he had to reset her ankle for her. And that was just a huge experience for Mom of coming into the realization of things are happening to my body that are beyond me. This was her first experience of like knowing and seeing and feeling the energies of what was going on the planet happening to her physical vessel. And so Mom began to see firsthand how much humanity basically hated the mother essence, right? This is, again, she went into this thing being like, this is going to be great. This is going to be amazing. And I think feeling into it, I can't speak for Mom, and I won't speak for her. But from my feeling from it, it was like Mom had put these pieces of the puzzle together, and in her heart, it was like, okay, she figured out that the ego was the root. It was the root of what was preventing us all from being love, from remembering who we are, from remembering that we're all God with God, right? That this was the root of the problem. And that if she just shared that information and told everyone, hey, it's the ego that's the problem. We figured it out. You know, oh, I'm downloading Mother God. This is amazing. Mother God and Father God, we're sharing this love and light. Let's all join together. Like, they weren't on this place where they were trying to be in a hierarchy. I believe at the time that her and Amrith really were bringing in that energies of like, that's just who they were. That's the essences that was coming through. And Mom had no idea how much visceral hate that the ego was going to have for the mother specifically, right? Up until this point, Mom has experienced abuse. She has experienced trauma. She knows there's something different about her, but again, she doesn't know why. She doesn't fully understand. She's like, okay, I'm Mother Earth. I'm God. Okay, cool. But as soon as she came out with, I am Mother God, that was it. Because in a way, she was declaring that Mother God was on the planet. And what happened? All of the ego came. Because the dark purposely cut out the mother for a very specific reason. They cut out the feminine. So the visceral hate for the feminine and for the mother was unknown to Mom. And this would only increase the abuse. This would only increase the persecution. This would only increase the judgment. And this is when she just started to see like, oh my God, they hate me. It's not even that they, you know, it's not even just a judgment anymore. It's not just that, you know, that they can't see what's going on. It's no, they hate me. And so 2008 is both this amazingly brilliant time for Mom of getting all of these things through, of having this totally new experience, of taking this leap of faith, but in equalness, right? It's this dark time. And that's the analogy of Crestone. It is both the highest and the lowest, the lightest and the darkest, where polarities meet. And I believe that is like the first time that darkness met God. So we will continue this story in the next episode. I thank you all for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time.
We are very close to an energetic gate which carries an astonishing energy of love and truth, which will no longer be denied on this planet.